Why is this not?
Or do you need to fix stuff?
Yeah.
I don't need to come out further.
Katie, I know, you didn't come over and remember putting the tents up in the backyard.
Maybe unscrew that little.
Well, by the time we get home.
Is that fine,
Maddie will
Jack?
probably- Yeah, Maddie's doing it. So I imagine there'll be lights strong, and I know there's mattresses down there already, and there's rugs out. She decided to camp out there tonight, they wanted to camp out there. So they put the tent
Okay,
up,
we're live.
We're live.
but Maddie.
Here we go.
Okay, Mary Kay. That's how we start our groups. Hey, what's up, guys? Well, kind of. Should I wait for people to get on here, or do I just? Okay. Well, Jack's gonna come up here and give his testimony, so I don't really have anything to say. I was gonna introduce him, but I think everybody probably already knows him. So let's say this. This is Jack's encounter with Jesus. So, like I said before, not everybody that has encountered Jesus has actually had an encounter with Jesus, but those who have had an encounter with Jesus are completely changed. So, Jack is going to come up here and tell you his story, and I'm going to sit out there and watch. Kind of nice. So, here you go, everyone. Jack.
So, hey Facebook. So I've been thinking about this, all week. So Jeremy asked me to do this about 3 weeks ago, and I've been thinking about it all week and studying and trying to figure out where I wanted to go with this and what I exactly wanted to say. But I guess in order to understand everything, you need to start at the beginning. So I was born March 1st, 1989. And I was born, I have an older brother, an older sister. They're quite a bit older than I am. They are 10 and 13 years older than I am. And then I have a younger sister. So my older siblings, yes, they were a part of my life, but as an early childhood, they were kind of off doing their own thing, being teenagers and stuff like that. And when we grew up on an old farmhouse. And I mean, like, stuff you see, like, in the movies. Like, it was a 2-story, white, old, like, paint's peeling off of it, stuff like that. And we grew up, and it was, out in the middle of the country. And Dad had a large garden. We had chickens running around. Great big trees, the rope swings in the trees, and everything. It was like so picturesque, of like what you picture when you think of a farmhouse. And, it was really nice growing up there, but there was no houses around. There was no other kids to play with. It was just the family, right? So, as nice as that seemed, my family were drinkers, right? So Dad would go to work, he would come home, open a beer, and Mom would join in as well. So every night it was drinking. On the weekends we'd go to parties, or we'd go to other family members' houses, we'd have parties, or we'd go to the local tavern. And the tavern, I remember as a kid, like, they had the little claw machine there. Like, we would sit there and just quarter after quarter after quarter, just sitting there putting it in the claw machine. And my parents didn't really seem to mind giving us the money because it kept the children out of their hair so they could go party and drink and do what they wanted. And when we weren't, during the day, I would spend, like, on the weekends when my dad was off work, it was always me and my dad, and we were always hunting, we were always fishing, we were always working on something around the farm, stuff like that. And I loved being with my dad, and I loved just learning. He was teaching me so much, and when I was about 5 or 6 years old, my mom actually got sober, and I didn't know what sobriety was then, or anything like that. but she got sober, and everything kind of changed from, I remember the day like it was yesterday, like got in my dad's he had like old 89 GMC square body truck, you know, and we're sitting there, we're driving out because we're going to go out to the farm, and we get like a mile or so from the house, and I just remember just feeling sick to my stomach, right? And I was like, Dad, just take me home. And like I didn't want to be with him for some reason, and so I went back home and I stayed with my mom, and so she stayed sober for 5 years. So over those 5 years, I had, you know, kind of quit hunting, I quit fishing, I quit all this stuff with my dad, and I just hung out with my mom, and it was weird. And then after 5 years, she went back to drinking, and they went back to partying together. So I was about 11 years old, and so I needed, like, nobody was paying attention to me, so I just went back into the activities that my dad liked to do, like hunting and fishing and stuff like that. And as I did that, like, I wanted to be good at it. I wanted to be a good fisherman. I wanted to be a good hunter. I started shooting trap, and I wanted to be good at it because I wanted the approval from my father. I wanted to somehow have him, you know, his approval, and accept that it was like the 5 years that I had lost because I really didn't spend it with my dad, even though he was there, but I wasn't with him on the weekends and stuff. It's like I was always trying to gain that back. And so when I did these things, I wanted to get good, and so he would have pride in me, like, hey, that is my son. And that's kind of what happened there for a little while. Like I would go to these different shoots and stuff, and I was good at it, and I would win. And you know, I had trophies and stuff from these things, and it's like, no matter how much I did, it was just like, it wasn't enough. I couldn't like really get that approval from him that I was longing for, basically. And so like, not only was I starting to do all this stuff, trying to get the approval of my father, you know, I'm just entering high school, you know, 14 years old, and, you know, so I started kind of partying a little bit, and I was 14 the first time that I got drunk, and not only did I get drunk, I smoked weed too. So like, imagine being 14, you're smoking weed, you're drinking beer, you get so sick, I mean, bad sick. And I just remember, like, it was so terrible that night, and just puking all over the place. It was so bad. And I was like, this alcohol is disgusting. But I didn't, like, I guess because I smoked weed before I started drinking, I was kind of like, well, smoking weed, it's fine. Like, that's not what got me sick, you know. It was the alcohol that got me sick. So I really didn't, like, I didn't take up alcohol. I just started smoking weed, and smoking weed from, you know, once here and there, gradually turned into almost every single day that I was smoking. So here I am, you know, 14, 15 years old, basically being a pothead in high school, and it was just, I don't know, it was just a phase that I was going through. I didn't know how to cope with anything, or, you know, or do anything. And so I'm sitting in school one day. I'm in German class, and here comes Tony. So Tony is my wife. So we met at 15 years old. You know, we dated all through high school and everything, and she did not like drugs at all. Period. She did not like the fact that I would smoke weed. So she asked me to quit, and so I quit smoking weed. But I turned back to the bottle, and I went back to drinking. And so then the rest of the last, you know, sophomore, junior, senior year of high school, I didn't smoke any weed or anything, but I was just back to drinking, and it was, you know, partying on the weekends and stuff like that. People would have parties, you go there, and I would drink and get drunk. And it was never an issue with my parents either, because they were alcoholics. So So basically, they didn't see a problem with me being, 16 or 17 years old, going out and partying on the weekends and stuff. Basically, as long as I didn't drive, it was fine. They didn't care. The refrigerator was always open. I could go grab a beer whenever I wanted to. It was not a big deal. So they didn't see any issues. There was never any kind of consequence or reprimand or anything like that. It was just kind of, just don't drive, you're fine. Just, stay here at the house or stay at the house wherever I was going to party at. It was just stay there. And, me and Tony moved into an apartment at 18 together. And the neighbors next to us, I think they were like 21 or 22. They were old enough to buy alcohol, so we started partying with them. And we'd party with them almost every single weekend. And, it was always available to me. It was always, whether it was the neighbor or my parents or friends or this and that. And then even when I was older, I could get it from, like I said, I have an older brother and sister, so I could always get it from them. If I would ask them and give them money, they would go get it for me. It's not an issue. So really, by the time I was 21, it was, I almost remember it just shortly after, probably like a month or so after I turned 21. Like, I was basically an everyday drinker by the time I was 21. I had been doing it, on and on the weekends, basically binge drinking for the last 5 years or 6 years. And then, so binge drinking on the weekends just turned into an everyday drinker. And I don't know, I never really would consider it a problem until one day when we went to get, one day we got married, right? It was planned, I promise. This was not no courthouse wedding. It was planned. So on October 11th, 2014, the date. Hey, I don't have it wrote down. So,
Good job, Jack.
so the day we're getting married. She asked me, she's like, can you just not drink today? We have tons of family from out of state. Most of her family lives out of state. They were coming into town. There's 200 people there or whatnot. And she's like, can you just not drink today? And that's when I knew that I had a problem, because in the back of my mind, I was like, there's no way that I can get married or go to a reception or do anything without drinking. Like, I had to drink. Like yes, I controlled it enough to where I was not drunk at my wedding, but I had to drink. There was no stopping me from doing that. And it just, so after we got married, the alcohol continued, obviously. And one day I was out hunting with my dad, and we'd been hunting like all week long, and I still hadn't gotten a deer yet. And I was like, I don't know why, I prayed or what really made me think of it, but I was just kind of like, come on, God, like, help me out here. Like, I've been sitting on my butt in this deer stand for hours on end. Like, can't you throw me a bone, And when I looked up, the tree in front of me, there was what looked to me like a cross shining on the tree. And I just remember just staring at that for several minutes, and I was like almost in shock, like couldn't believe that was there. And sure enough, a deer walked directly underneath of that cross. I was just like completely blown away. I didn't know what to make of it. And instead of realizing then what I know now, I just continued down the same path, and it got worse, and our marriage was failing. It was getting worse. We were constantly fighting, constantly arguing. We could never make a rational decision on everything without it turning into a fight between us. And like I said, the drinking just continues. And eventually I had enough of it, and I was like, okay, we got in a huge fight, and I got in the vehicle, and I drove to the state park here in Troy, and I was like, basically trying to come up with a way to commit suicide without making it look like a suicide, because I figured there was some kind of shame, I guess, in committing suicide, but if it looked like an accident, it would be okay, and my family would be able to get over it easier, I guess. And it was so bad, and like, I'm just sitting there at the state park, in the car, just completely annihilated, wasted. And when I kind of calmed down, and I was like, okay, like I need to come up with a plan on how I want to commit suicide without making it look like suicide. And so I put the car in drive, and I'm like, as I'm getting ready to leave the state park, I'm like, God, like if you are real, like just show me something, show me a sign. And right then, a deer walked out into the road, and it just stood there, and it looked directly at me, and it brought me back to when I seen the cross on the tree, several years before, and I was just kind of like freaked out. I didn't know what to do. I mean, scared the crap out of me. And so I go home. I talk to Tony, and I tell her, what's going on, like how I can't handle anything anymore, the way that my life was going, our marriage is going, like nothing is working, and I'm just like finished with it, like I didn't even want to live anymore. And so we talked, well, went to the doctor, right, because the doctor wants to put me on antidepressants and some other stuff. And, well, you can't take all that stuff and then continue to drink every single night. The stuff's not going to work, right? And so it just fallen deeper into depression. Alcohol is out of control. It's just not a good time in my life. And I actually did try to go to an AA meeting, and I went to this meeting, and it wasn't for me. And as I look back on it now, like there was good people there that really cared about me and wanted to help me, but I wasn't ready to quit. I hadn't hit my bottom yet. So, drinking continues every night. I mean, when I say continues, I mean it's every single night. I get home from work and I drink until I pass out on the couch every single night. I work in construction. If I was rained out of work, I was drunk before noon, would pass out, wake up in the afternoon, and get drunk again, and pass out again. And then that's how my days were every single day. Work, drink, pass out. Work, drink, pass out. Every single day was like that. And it's just, I mean, killing myself. And part of me I think part of me, the reason I was doing this, where my alcohol was getting so out of control also, goes back to my father a little bit too, with him being an alcoholic, was that, I did all those things to try to win his approval, and he was a drinker, so I was like, well, if I'm a drinker too, and I can basically keep pace with him, then I can win his approval that way, right? Well, not only was he's probably, if he ever sees this, he's probably going to shake his head, but was I a better fisherman than he was, or a better hunter, or a better shooter? And so it got to the point where like I could drink with him, keep pace with him, and he would go to bed, and then I could continue to drink. Like I had surpassed him in even drinking, right? Like I had everything that what I thought he was looking for in his son. I had surpassed all of that, right? And it still wasn't enough to hear him say that he loved me or that he was proud of me or that he approved of my life or anything like that, right? And so all this kind of comes to an end with the Christmas Eve of 2016. Me and Tony, we get into an argument. And you ever see that? I'm sure most of you have, but you know how the Grinch steals Christmas, and he takes like the Christmas tree and he like throws it up into the chimney and everything. Well, that was me with our Christmas tree, and it went out the front door. And then I go outside and yank all the lights off the house, and I mean, just a complete idiot, right? Trying to ruin whatever Christmas we were going to have that year, just to make myself feel better or try to prove some point. And so I do all this stuff, and you know, I realized that I kind of screwed up a little bit, and Tony basically gave me kind of like an ultimatum, like, hey, you need to, you know, get some help, get sober, or, you know, I'm out the door. And so I went and we found a drug and alcohol counselor, and I went and I'd seen her, and actually I made it a few days without drinking, but then I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, I had, you know, 2 or 3 days. I'm like, I got this beat. I got this under control. Yeah, I'll just drink a little bit. And so I would drink a little bit here and there. And Tony, she didn't know anything about it. You know, I had bottles hidden all over the place. Bottles in the bathroom, bottles in the garage, bottles in the kitchen. I mean, anywhere you could think of hiding stuff, I had hid it everywhere. And in both vehicles, everything. And so on January 15th, 2017, that little bit that I was drinking turned into a lot. And I went to a shoot that day, and I took a bottle with me, and drank an entire bottle at the shoot. And when I left the shoot to come home, I stopped at the gas station and got another bottle. And I come home and I walk into the door, and there's no hiding that my sobriety anymore from her. And of course, we got into an argument, and it wasn't just an argument. It got physical that night, and I don't really remember like everything that happened that night at all. The only thing I really remember is she was laying on the floor, and I was hitting her, and we had a dog, and the dog, she came in there and she like got in between us, and it was just long enough for Tony to scramble out of there and run down the hallway to the bedroom. And you know, I chased after her, and the bedroom door was shut, and I'm beating this door senseless, like punching it, and I'm kicking it, and it's not budging. And I remember I hit the door, the other bedroom door directly behind me, and it just like explodes into pieces everywhere. But it didn't matter how hard or how hard I hit the door or kicked the door, this door was not going to move. And eventually I got tired. Probably, you know, being drunk, you get tired pretty fast. And I left the house, and I went down to the bar, you know, and just continued to drink. But that was the last night. That was the last night I ever drank. It's the last night I will ever drink. I will never drink again. It was something completely different, something that I wasn't, that I didn't know I was capable of. I mean, it was just uncontrollable rage. It was me taking out everything that I thought was wrong in my life, and it was taking it out on my wife. It was an extremely bad night, and you know, they always say if you can go back and change anything, you know, that would always be the one night. But then I stand here and I would not take that night back, because if I hadn't have gone through that, if I wouldn't have had it done that, then I would never be standing here. And so January 16th, 2017 is my sober date. Yeah. So this is where it gets good, guys. So I really hope you just tuned in, because this is where it gets good. This is where life started. That was the day that life started for me, and I didn't know it at the time. And so the alcohol and drug counselor, I went back and I seen her, and she told me about a Celebrate Recovery, and so I really had no desire, no intention to go to a Celebrate Recovery at all. And I really, but after all the garbage I just pulled, I had no choice. Like I did not want to lose my wife, even though I seemed to hate my wife. I didn't want to lose her. And so it's basically go to this meeting or lose my wife, and that was one thing I did not want to do. So I was like, fine, and in my head I was like, fine, like I'll go to this meeting, I'll go, I'll do a couple meetings or whatever, show that I'm improving, and then I'll go back to doing whatever Jack wants to do. And so I go to this meeting, and I meet some really fantastic people, and one of them is named Matt Bass, and Matt Bass told me about a meeting at his basement, at Crumbly Burger basement, and so I go to this meeting, and I meet Jeremy, and I meet Adam, and a few other people, and when the meeting was over with, Jeremy and Adam, they were like, hey, can we pray over you? And I was like, okay. And they prayed over me that night. And when I walked up the steps and I left Crumbly Burger, I just knew something was different that night. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew something was different that night. And so I went back the following week, and they have these, they're called prayer cards, and you write a prayer on there. You can, any kind of prayer you want, or anybody that needs prayer, you write it on there, and you pass the cards around. You get a random card, and you pray for that person all week, or whatever's on the card. That's what you pray for all week. Because I was trying to pray. I was trying to find out who Jesus was, but being brand new to it, I was like, what do you pray for? You're supposed to pray for a Corvette. You're supposed to pray for $1 million. Like, you have no idea what you're really doing, right? But it doesn't matter, because you are starting a relationship with Christ. And so I get this prayer card, and it's to pray for a man named Dave. And there was no Dave at that meeting that night. So the meeting is on a Monday, and I'm praying for Dave, all week long. And I still pray for Dave whenever he pops in my head. So I start praying for Dave on a Monday. On Friday, I go to CR and Matt Bass. I was gifted a recovery Bible on that Friday. Well, the recovery Bible, it has different testimonies written into the Bible that kind of go with different stories that go along with the Bible and stuff like that, with different struggles. And so Matt Bass, he's sitting there just flipping through the Bible, and he stops and he's like, okay, here's this over here, and this is Dave's testimony over here. Okay, so like out of every single page in the Bible, every single testimony that's in that Bible, here I am praying for Dave, and Dave shows up on the Bible on that Friday. And I was just like, so Matt is sitting there, and he's like, explaining this, but I see the testimony of Dave here, And I'm smiling because and he's just like, I'm not even listening to what Matt is saying. I was just like in such shock because God is real, and he was showing me there that I was on the right path, and that just keep going, and he's going to be there for me. And so so on my 90th day of sobriety, I was baptized. And then I hit 1 year of sobriety, and I hit 1 year of sobriety, and like a week after that, I went to a shoot, and my dad was there, obviously, and he walks up to me, and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "your mom told me you got a year of sobriety," and I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "That's really good." Now, I know that doesn't seem like much, but in his voice and in his face, that's where I got the approval. That's where I seen his love. And so, all the years of alcoholism, all the years of trying to be better than he was to get his love or his approval, none of the stuff that I did worked. It was a year with Jesus. That's what got me his approval. That's what got me his love. Even though he didn't say those words, I seen it in his face and I heard it in his voice. And over the last 3.5 years of following Jesus, he's done so much in my life. My wife that I completely hated, I love my wife now. My wife, who I completely mistreated and belittled and physically abused and everything else, I love her now. Now, yes, I still hate to take the trash out. I still don't like to mow the grass, but I love to come home and see her. When I don't see her for a day, I'm nervous in my stomach because I haven't seen her that day. And that's the stuff that he can do for you. He's done it for me. He's done it for countless people in this room. He's done it for millions and millions and millions over years and years and years, and he will do it for you. And I don't know. He's just changed my life so much. I mean, all my friends that I had 4 years ago when I was partying and drinking and stuff, I barely ever talked to. Maybe once a year, if that. Some of them I haven't even talked to since I've gotten sober. Now I stand up here behind the pulpit, and I look out and I look at my friends, my family right here, and they're heroin addicts, they're meth addicts, they're addicted and that's my family, and I love my family. And those are my friends. Those are the people who I call on. And it's not because of the fact that they were heroin addicts or meth addicts or this and that or whatever. It's not that. It's because they're my brothers and sisters in Christ. And that's what it's about. It's about Jesus Christ and everything that he can do for you. And I do want to read a little bit. I'm not sure how we're doing on time. Good. So this is out of John chapter 14. And all day long I've been nervous to come up here, and it may even sound nervous as I was standing up here. But the very first verse in John chapter 14 says, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me." So this is Jesus speaking. So it says right there, don't let your hearts be troubled. So why was I worrying about this all day? There was no reason to be nervous when I come up here, because I trust in Christ. And, sometimes we get so wrapped up in, well, what are we going to do tomorrow? What are we going to do next week? What are we going to do next month? That we almost lose sight of Christ. And we don't trust that he has a plan for us. He has a plan that, for whatever reason, you're watching me stand up here tonight. You think that's my doing? No, that's Christ right here. Right? So verse 2, it says, "There is more than enough room in my Father's home. If this were not so, would I have told you that I'm going to prepare a place for you? So every single, what Jesus is saying is he left earth to go back to heaven so he can prepare a place for you and for me and for you and you and you and you and everybody. He's up there, and it's not, like, I picture this. I don't know why I picture this. But I picture this as like a big, like the old like Viking tables, you know, they had big long tables and they had all these big chairs stacked up there, and you know, and you're sitting in the chair. And that's what I pictured, like Christ died here for me, so and then he goes up to heaven and he's making a chair for me. So I can come up there and I can sit at his table and have a meal with him in person.
That's really good.
You know, and it's not just, and he's doing that for you.
Yes.
You know, he wants to make a chair for you. He wants you to sit at his table. He wants to have a meal with you. Verse 3 says, when everything is ready, I will come and get you, so that you always be with me where I am. And you know the way to where I am going. So Christ is coming back, guys. He's coming back, and Scripture says that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. And he was coming back. And
Come on.
yeah, right? Come on. And so he's coming back, guys. And he's coming back to get his children. And we're going to go up there and we're going to sit in those chairs that he made for us. Okay, so verse 5, it says, no, we don't, Lord, Thomas said. We have no idea where you are going. So how can we know the way? Jesus told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. So, after, you know, this is probably one of my favorite verses in the Bible. And I'll read it again. It says, Jesus told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And it's my favorite verse for the simple fact that I get told this on a regular basis. Well, I'm a good person. I think I'm fine. Well, it says right there that no one gets to heaven except through him. So you think you're a good person, right? So you just heard my story. Was I a good person? Was I a good husband? No, not at all. I was far from it. But if you compare me to Charles Manson, well, yeah, I didn't murder anybody, right? I didn't get people. Or if you Charles Manson, you take Charles Manson, you compare him to Hitler, who was a better person, somebody who killed millions, or obviously, it's not. Jesus Christ. That's the only way you're getting into heaven. And he's the way, and I like that too because, he is the way to break your addiction. He is the way to restore your marriage. He is the way that makes you a better person, right? And then it says the truth and the life. And just a few days ago, there was a person. I don't remember his name by chance, but he passed away as the oldest living person on earth at 111 or 112 years old, which is a fairly long time on this planet, right? Right. But Jesus says that he is the life. So when my physical body dies here on earth and I go to heaven, 112 years is nothing. It's a blink of an eye, right? So you want to live forever? Jesus Christ is the way, because that's what he just said. All right, so verse 7. This says, if you had really known me, you would know who my Father is. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Philip said, Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied. Isn't that typical of us? Even though Jesus fed 5,000 people, even though that he healed countless people from being deaf, blind, mute, raising people from the dead, casting out all these demons, right? We still want the proof, right? Even though I seen the cross on the tree, I still needed proof, right? Even though when I was thinking about committing suicide and the deer walks out in front of me, I still need proof. How is that not proof enough, right? We're always looking for more, because we don't want to give in. We don't want to surrender to his will. right? We have to be completely broken. We have to hit that very bottom in order for him to help us, save us, to lift us up out of that hole. Verse 9, Jesus replied, I have been with you all this time, Philip, and yet you still don't know who I am. Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. So why are you asking me to show him to you? Don't you believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? And the words I speak are not my own, but my Father, who lives in me, who does his work through me? Just believe that I am the Father, and the Father is in me, or at least believe because of the work you've seen me do. I am his work, right here. So if you see me, you can see the Father. You can see the Holy Spirit that lives in me. You can see the love that I did not have 3.5 years ago. You can see it now. I would love for you to come and see it in person. I would love 301 Main Street here in Troy. Every Monday at 6 o'clock. Every Saturday at 6 o'clock. I am here 99% of the time. And I'm not the only one. There's so many people that are sitting in this room that you can't see. Right, 10 people. Verse 12, it says, I tell you the truth. Anyone who believes in me will do the same works I have done, and even greater works, because I am going to be with the Father. You can ask for anything in my name, and I will do it, so that the Son can bring glory to the Father. Yes, ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. So if you're watching this, or you're sitting out there, and you are broken, you are at your bottom, and you don't know where to go, if you ask Christ for help, in his name, he will help you. That's the bottom line. Now, is your addiction going to be cured tomorrow? If you ask for it? Possibly. Or it could be the fact that you've seen this video, or it could be the fact that he's going to put somebody in your life tomorrow that can help you, that can lead you down the right road. But if you ask for anything in his name, he will do it. He will honor you, because that's what he does. That's what he wants to do. Right? Now, having read that and shared my testimony, now I'm not going to sit here and say everything's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Yes, I have joy and I have peace in my life, but it's not. Life is hard. I still get angry. I still get mad. I still sometimes not the best husband. Obviously, I'm way better than what I was, but I'm so far from perfect, it's not even funny. But, and yes, I still do occasionally want to have a beer. It's still in my head sometimes. But Scripture says to take every thought captive. And that's where it stops. It comes in. I have been set free. I don't let my desires or these temptations make me a captive anymore. I am free. They're not free to run my mind. They're not free to run my life. They come into my brain. They are trapped through the power of Jesus Christ, and I am still free. And I will continue to do that until he comes again, because we just read that he will come again. He's coming back for his children. He's coming back for those who are lost. He's coming back, and he's going to do wonderful things in your life if you allow him to do it. And like I said, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a perfect situation. You're not magically going to have a full bank account. That's not how it is. You're still going to have to get up. You're still going to have to go to work. It's just the way that the world here works. But you can have joy, you can have peace, you can have love, and that is all because of Jesus Christ. So with that, I think I will finish. But again, 301 Main Street in Troy. Every Monday, every Tuesday now, Saturdays, Jesus Christ will save your life. He can bail you out at anything. He can restore your marriage. He can restore your broken relationships. And not only will he do that, he wants to do that for you. He wants to have a relationship with you. That's all He wants, is like just to be a friend, and He will do everything for you. Just to call Him a friend, and He wants to call you a friend, and He will pave the way for you to have the best life possible that you can here on earth.
Amen.
Bye.
Thank you, Jack.